The 31st of December 2014, done. The 31st of December 2017, done. Now I've just got over 2 months to go to make it the hat trick for this one. Hello and welcome to the Fat Man to Ironman Coach Marshy running podcast. Hope you're well. My name's Neil Marsh. I am Coach Marshy and I'd like to welcome you to today's episode. I hope you're well. How's your week going? How's your running week going? How's your training week going? Are you getting everything you want done? So if you'd like to let me know, I'd love to hear from you and hear how you're actually getting on with your fitness goals, your running goals right now. All you've got to do is say on any social media platform, YouTube, any of them, just put a comment and say you are listening to the podcast and how you're getting on with your running challenge. And in a future episode, I will give you a shout out for sure. It'll be great to hear from you. So welcome to today's episode. So part one of running challenges. So running challenges are really interesting things. And I would say from years of coaching now and my own kind of perspective on these is that a running challenge is different for everyone. So for me, since finding my running in kind of 2009 and that magic light bulb moment for me back in 2010, I've always loved the idea of that new running challenge. That next level, the next distance, that is the real motivation for me. That's what makes me tick. That is what is going to make me accountable and make me run. What about you? What's your motivator? It doesn't have to exactly be the why. Let me be clear on that. So I'm not talking about why you're out there, why you're doing it, but what is it that's really going to make you get out the door every time that you need to train in order to achieve that goal? What is it? Is it the challenge itself? For me, and the example that I'm about to give to you, 100%. So like I said, running challenge for me has always been the best way forward, and it's always brought out the best results for me. This is me against me, and I don't necessarily mean about speed or distance, but it's me against myself, challenging myself to achieve that little bit more. And that's really important. That's something that I think for me individually is a really important part of my running journey and in my running coaching. So many people approach me and it's all about speed. It's all about want to be better than someone else. No. Look after you and trust me, those personal bests that you're striving for, they're going to come big time, because they certainly did for me in one of these challenges that I'm going to talk about right now. So what am I saying in the intro there? What am I describing? I'm describing one of my challenges. So this is the running challenge part one. And the challenge that I'm referring to there right at the beginning is the idea of running for an entire year without missing a day. So you start on January the 1st and you finish on the 31st of December. What a feeling. So yes, done in 2014. Talk about that in a second. Done in 2017. And on this day of recording, just over 2 months to go. Can I make it the hat trick for this one? Tune in to the future episodes and I will let you know how I am getting on. So 2014, what was it all about? Well, firstly, I knew I wanted to run every day for a year. It's something I'd heard of within the running community and the running world. So I wanted to give it a go. But in order for it to be an accountable challenge, I wanted there to be some definition around it. How was it defined? What time was I going to do it? How was I going to do it? And the way that I worked out is that I was just going to define the distance. And I thought about life at the time in 2014, how busy I was, what everything that was going on for me career-wise and in life. And I realised that there is likely to be some days where you're hanging on at the end of the day. So you're really struggling to fit that in. So what I did is I wanted to define a distance that meant I had to go and run. It wasn't just running to the end of the street and back. For some people, the distance I'm about to describe may be the end of the street, and therefore great. But for me, it had to be a distance that was representative of something that I internally felt was acceptable for me. So how you define it would be very different, I'm sure. But the running challenge was to run 1.25 miles every single day as a minimum. So the reason I went for that distance was very simple. I was living at home with parents at the time, and the simple block out of the front door around the major block was 1.25 miles. So it just made sense that if I was finishing working in the fitness industry at the time on shifts, if I finished at 10 o'clock at night and I still hadn't managed to fit it in, off you go round the block. So that was great. But what I realized is that very early on in 2014, that this challenge became more than running every day. It became about the people that I was running with, and there were many. It was amazing. It was all about people, relationships, togetherness. And it was also very much about that challenge of not just running every single day, but where I would run, the different places that could take part in. And I had holidays booked that year. So if you're going to run every day, you've got to complete it, right? So running in the French Alps was a real highlight for me. And not only for 1 week of that year, but for 2 weeks. I was lucky enough to go skiing in what would have been the half term of February, and then also the Easter holidays that year. So it was incredible to be running at that altitude in that cold, at least 1.25 miles. And in February, that was quite early on in the challenge. And there were times there where, do I want to do this challenge? Shall I just give up? And I'm sure you've been there, right? Have you been there? Can you think of a challenge right now where you just want to quit? You're like, why have I even signed up to this? And there I was running around icy pavements. Be interested now with the experience that I've got, whether or not I'd actually do that, but we'll see. So running around in the French Alps was something else. That was a real experience, and something that I don't suppose I would have done at that time in my life had I not been doing the challenge. So for me, running brought that experience, which was awesome. And then later on that year, I was really lucky to have a little kind of family reunion in Florida. And it was in the height of summer. So the humidity was unbelievable. It was absolutely boiling. And because you don't want it to ruin your day, and you know you're going to be late, if you've ever done the whole Disney thing, massive Disney fan, by the way, massive disclaimer, love Disney. If you've ever done Disney, do you love Disney? Does anyone love Disney? Disney's great. So that is a challenge, by the way, while we're talking about challenge, that is on my bucket list. Anyone listening, have you ever done any of the Disney runs at the parks anywhere in the world? Because that's on my bucket list and I've not done it yet. But anyway, if you go to Disney, you want the whole day, Universal, whatever you're doing, you want the whole day. So for me, there was one option, and that was get up, get on with it, get it done, get a shower, get breakfast, let's go to the park and have fun, because that's what we're there for. So running in Florida is a right experience, and it was so hot. I was training for my first ultra marathon, which I mentioned on one of the previous episodes, and it was the Saturday, and I was there by myself because my rest of my family were traveling down from New York, having been to visit the older sister up there, and they were all traveling down together as a family. So I was actually on site for a couple of days by myself in the apartment that we'd hired, and I went out running thinking, oh yeah, good, I'll get a half marathon in this heat and this humidity, and that'll be good training for my ultra marathon. I got to 3.5 miles away, and I had to come back, and I had to stop at the local Walmart to actually get a drink because I was beaten. It was unbelievable. So that was a real experience. And again, something that I'd never experienced before. So in 2014, it was amazing for me. It gave me so much. It let me sort of run at altitude and in the freezing cold and run in extreme heat as well. So I'd imagine, I think Florida and Orlando is quite a flat area. So, but it was amazing. And that year, 2014, the challenge was completed on a New Year's Eve, which would be defined as it's a chilly cold one out there. So it was a chilly day, and there was 4 or 5 of us that ran sort of a 5K to finish it off. Some good running friends that are still running friends now were out there with me, and they finished it off with me. It was a great experience, and I absolutely loved it. So that was 2014. So you completed a challenge. I'll talk about would I recommend it later on at the end of capping over the other years, but I decided I wanted to do it again, and I'd had a few years off, and it was 2017, and I thought, got a big year running here. I was in the London Marathon. I had an exciting adventure which involved running to Africa, and I just thought, I want to give it a go again. I've done it once, but can I do it again? So what I did is I set myself up with the same challenge of 2014. I was living somewhere different, but I thought I would define it in the same way. So the 1.25 miles, make it my consistent Coach Marshy challenge. So I did, but I thought I'd add something to it. So I would run 2017 miles in 2017. And that was a great sort of sighter. And I think if I do the maths right, it's about 5.5 miles a day, which was going some. And any of you that are experienced runners will know that that is going some. And I've got to be really honest. And a disclaimer, as a coach, I'm not sure I'd ever prescribe that to anyone. But for me, I've never been fitter than halfway through that year. And by the end of it, actually. So super fit, much fitter than where I am now. So it was a great idea. Was it a great idea? Do you think it's a good idea? I thought it was a good idea. So I was doing it again. And it was great because I got to run in multiple countries. And when I say multiple countries, I actually got to run in 3 continents as well, which was great. So I ran in Sierra Leone as part of a bigger picture, which I will talk about on a future episode, the Hope Alive Tour, a running adventure, which is still available to do. And it was the inaugural event, and it was an amazing experience running through Sierra Leone, running a marathon as a group, but all attempting to run the 26 miles, but you could jump in the vehicle for a rest if you wanted. And due to an injury, I did at 18 miles, but trust me, the amount of hills and inclines we'd done by that point, that was enough. But I'll talk about that on another episode in more depth. Cyprus, Belgium, Poland. So in Europe, it was great. And then in New York as well. So went to visit my sibling over there, my sister, and did the Central Park, ran the loop. Amazing experience. I've been lucky enough to do that a few times. Anyone who happens to maybe listen to this and has either done that or lives in New York, you'll know that running experience is something out of this world. It's definitely something you should do if you ever visit New York. But I also did the Brooklyn Bridge run as well. So I managed to run a 5K just from the Airbnb that I was staying at near my sister's over the Brooklyn Bridge and back. Did it one morning very early as the sun was rising, Statue of Liberty. Oh, just amazing. So again, it was more about everything that came with it. It was so much that came with it, and it was so exciting. And it was like running in all these different countries. And I was just lucky, Poland, I was there on a stag do. And trust me, on a Sunday morning or Saturday morning after the first night on a stag do, it was not something that I really wanted to do. But I did it, and boy, did it clear the system out, as you can imagine. Anyone who's ever been to Poland will know that if you like to have a vodka, it is very strong stuff. So, it was an amazing experience. And then Cyprus, heading over to see a mate over there and celebrating my birthday as well. But there was days where I had to get up and run on every single day. And Belgium as well, full of chocolate over in Bruges there. So, it was what an experience. What a real pleasure as well. I never underestimate how lucky I am and how lucky I have been so far in my life. And these experiences are something that I never forget and something I would love to talk about more, which I can do in future episodes for sure. So do you run in multiple countries? When you go away, do you see it as a way to get out there, experience what that place, that town, that city, that country has to offer? Do you do it? Let me know. Let me know in any comments that you're coming across this podcast on. It'd be great to know where you've run. But in 2017, it was amazing. But what I would say is a goal is a goal, right? You've got to go for it. You have to go for it. And if you've got that goal, just by going for it, you can really find out other things about yourself and you get more out of it than just, in this case, running every day for a year. Because for me, it was more than that. It was about the people, the relationships, the places. It was an experience. It was absolutely amazing. So we get to New Year's Eve and it's the finish time and there was about 30 of us. It was brilliant. We were at my first gym building, which was just across the way from where I'm sitting right now and recording this podcast. We're now in a bigger facility, but it was over there. It was New Year's Eve and my good friend Michael, who is also a very experienced runner, he decided that we were going to make bacon rolls in the little unit kitchen that we had there, and we had like a big New Year's Eve early morning party, and it was just great. It was an experience, and it wasn't about me. It was about people coming together through running and really like having a great time in what was the Christmas holidays, and it was just exciting to be there and have everyone with us. So it was great, and it's all about those other people for me. So I thank everyone who helped me at any stage in my running journey, but on these particular challenges, they were difficult and very psychologically difficult, which I will touch on in a second. So here we were, interesting 2019, big injury late 2018, big injury early 2019, one lower body, one upper body, and I wanted to reset. I wanted to reset this year, 2020. It was going to be a big year like it was for everyone. And then coronavirus. But we won't talk about that because so many podcasts are right now, so we won't. But anyway, 2020, the same challenge. And I'm going for it. I'm going for that hat trick. And I'm replicating 2017 with 2020 miles this year. 2,020 miles in this year. So let me just have a quick look. I can give us a little update as to where that is today. So as of today, where am I? It is, 1 second. Let's just have a little look. So the challenge is going well. Just while I check this, it's going really well. Let's see where I'm at. We are 1,828. And just for reference, today's date is the 26th of October. So just over 2 months to go and basically just under 200 miles to go. So I'm going for it. And this year has been an interesting challenge because there hasn't been the events like there have in 2014 and 2017. There were multiple events, by the way, in those years that helped me get to those goals and helped me run every day. But this year, due to COVID-19, it's left it in doubt. It's massively left it in doubt. So I put a little bit of a spin on it. I put challenges within the greater challenge. So June, when, you know, we're all suffering in June, people really tough and everyone's having a hard time and lots of life challenges. And for me, I needed something. And two good running friends, Andrew and Ian, they very much came up with a great idea. They wanted to do the ultra marathon month, which I can talk about in more depth at another time. But basically, we were going to run every day in the month, which I was doing anyway. But we were going to do the accumulator. So we were going to plus 1 mile on per day for the whole of June. And I'll talk about that another time. But, awesome challenge. And it kept me going in June. So currently, the challenge is still on. And I'm still there. I'm still in with a chance. I can still make it. And I'm going to keep going for it. And the reason I'm going to go for it is because of other people. It's not about me. It is my personal challenge, which I said is what motivates me and gets me out the door. And when, like on recent days, following the virtual London Marathon a few weeks back now, it's one of those where you don't always feel like it. But what gets me out the door is the challenge of completing a run in every single day of this year for the third time. And I was out there, particularly like today, for example, I'm out there, and the thing that's getting me out the door is that idea that I do not want to quit now. Not now. Not now is the key word. Now is not the time for me to quit. Now is not the time to rest. Now is the time to go out there, finish this challenge and go for it. And I'm going to go for it. COVID pending, I have to say that, because we just don't know. If I was to become infected, that could affect it this late on. If I had to have a 2-week isolation, it'd be extremely hard to continue that in the garden. So there are doubts, but within my own ability, my own mindset, I'm going to go for it. And hopefully we can make it and I can get there. So keep following that journey if you want to. So I would say, as a challenge, it's a great idea. It keeps you accountable to yourself. If you vlog about it like I did in 2017, or you write a blog about it like I did in 2014, it can keep you accountable. So it's great from that aspect and for a personal challenge. From a point of view of sports science, would I recommend it? Obviously, definition is crucial within that, because if it's just a short run, that at the level of fitness you're at would very much be defined as a very relaxing, slow jog, and you could do it like that as the smallest amount each day, then like today when I'm doing the minimum, it counts as much as a recovery run and a movement pattern as it does an actual training run. So from my perspective, from a sports science point of view, it's individual differences, but there is science that says you need to rest. And I agree, you do need to rest. So don't be going and making rash decisions over whether you should do this or not. Don't just jump into it. Think about it. Chat to someone who's done it. Talk to someone who's a sports scientist, a running coach. Think about why you're doing it as well. Is it something for you? And then from a psychological point of view, what a psychological challenge. There were times in 2017 where it just got so bad. I just couldn't get out the door, not even for 1.25 miles. I mean, that is ridiculous, Marshy. What do you think, guys? You know, I've been running a long time now. It's 1.25 miles. I appreciate that not everyone would be at that level. But for me, within these moments, that's tough sometimes to get out the door. And realistically, everyone's got 12 minutes in a day for themselves. 12 to 15 minutes. So, you know, psychologically, great challenge. Physically, hard challenge. Mentally, really hard throughout the year. Is it great for your body? Depends where you're at. We can talk about that. We can talk about that in future episodes. No problem. So that's kind of an overview of Running Challenge Part 1 for me. Hopefully you enjoyed it. You enjoyed the stories, and maybe it will motivate you to go out there and set yourself a new running challenge for yourself and give it a go, guys. Believe in yourself. Get out there, give it a go. I'd love to hear about your running challenge. Why don't you find one of my social media platforms? Say you're listening to the podcast and pop it down on there what your running challenge is. That would be absolutely awesome. So if you did enjoy it, be sure to head over to the YouTube channel for my running advice, my strength conditioning for running, foam rolling for running, tips for running. Head over there, look it up, Coach Marshy on the YouTube channel. Please don't forget to give this podcast a review and rate it, and do share it with anyone that you think that might enjoy this particular episode or the previous episodes. And if you're new today, welcome to the Coach Marshy podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself, and hopefully we can meet here again next week to discuss more on the Fat Man to Ironman Coach Marshy running podcast.